Hey there, Titanfall legends, my name is Jaredude, here today to summarize the Ask Me Anything the developers just did over on the website Reddit yesterday. Respawn answers some fairly interesting questions, so I want to share some of the highlights. If you would like to read the entirety of the post with all the questions and answers that were addressed in the description below, I'll leave a link to that. So with that said, there's quite a few questions I do want to cover, so let's just get right on into it. The first question, when will Scorch get buffed? Simple answer given, July 25th. So of course we don't know any of the details in terms of what is going to be changed, but for all of those who are a fan of the Papa, well, we're finally going to see some improvements. Next question, will you guys be considering making single player / campaign DLC? Response, there will not be any single player DLC for Titanfall 2. This hasn't been a thing discussed in a while, but I remember, at least leading up to the release of the game, some people were saying, wouldn't it be awesome to get some single player DLC? Well, unfortunately, that's not going to be a thing. Will there be a Monarch Prime? If so, will it be BT7274? Currently, we have no plans for additional Prime Titans. What happened to suppressors for primary weapons, and could they make a return? The answer is, the removal of precise player positions from the minimap reduced their gameplay impact to the point that we decided not to include them. There are currently no plans to bring them back. Then the same person asked a second question, also, why can't we attach specific optics to certain weapons? For instance, the AOG scope to weapons that are not LMGs, or the hollow sight to assault rifles, or the HCOG to SMGs, etc. Any chance this could change in the future? The response is, we want certain weapons, or classes of weapons, to have things that are their own. When weapons have different capabilities, it allows players to choose between them based on more than just numeric stats. Next question, how exactly does the lunge mechanic work? Like, what changes its range? What was the reason for creating it during development, and do you plan on keeping it, or are you considering a change or removal of it? The answer is, I believe your current speed affects the range of the lunge. Our goals in TF2 was to make melee feel more satisfying and visceral, and lunge is a part of that. That said, we have made adjustments in DLC 7 and look forward to hearing player feedback. Then there's a question asked about the Smart Pistol, and the response is that there are no plans to change the Smart Pistol at this time. I feel like it's been asked before, but all of the cryptids, why Nessie? Does it have a specific significance, or it just a preference that makes it the Easter egg of choice? The response is, when I was making plus launching the first reveal version of Respawn.com, I needed an image to tease the fact that we were indeed working on a game. I took my favorite piece of concept art, blurred the crap out of it, and posted it. Eager fans tried to decipher it, and one of the biggest contenders among them was that it was a picture of Nessie. We have since ran with it. Will this update be the final one for Titanfall 2, or will you keep on supporting it? Operation Frontier Shield is not our final DLC. This one was especially interesting to me. Did you have to drop something you spent time and work on from the final game? Was there something you were really sad to not see in the final product? During development of Titanfall 2 single player, a designer prototyped a training level dubbed the Endless Runner. We were grappling with the problem of teaching players how to get really good at wall running and double jumping, because from our experience, it's very unnatural for most players when they start. The Endless Runner was an inventive level that would spawn sections of a wall running track in front of you and would keep score of how well you were moving as a pilot. As your score increased, the sections of the track appearing in front of you would become more and more complex until eventually it seemed impossible to continue. It was good fun seeing how high we could each go. Maybe someday we could find a way to make it shippable and slot it in somewhere in a future project. I sure hope they do manage to do that. That sounds absolutely incredible. Gamers have a habit of blaming publishers for certain gameplay design decisions. In your experience, how much input do publishers have on the gameplay of games? I have nothing but good things to say about EA when it comes to developing Titanfall. They let us do what we want and are willing to provide help when we want it. They trust us to make an awesome game on time, and then it's their job to market and distribute the game. We are an independent studio and aggressively operate as such. I'm sure EA freaks out a big deal with a lot of our development styles, but they don't get in our way. Will we ever be able to high-five Marvin? We keep trying to get him into it, but he won't sign the contract. Oh, I'm trying to blame it on a robot, I see. Will Titanfall 2 get skill-based matchmaking? I really don't enjoy being stomped by high-skilled players or pre-made groups knowing there's nothing I can do to win the match. We are currently working on improvements to matchmaking. After the game launch, Vince, who is the CEO in case you don't know, said Respawn will consider again the first-person Titan embarking. Has that been discussed any further? We did further discuss and even prototyped it shortly after launch. The amount of work required to fully implement the feature, multiple entry animations in high-fidelity cockpits for all of the MP Titans, was out of scope for the resources we have available. I personally asked one question, thank you so much Respawn for responding to it. I said, are ideas from Stephen Barton, the main music composer, ever shot down? Or perhaps to rephrase, does he have the complete trust of Respawn at this point because of his proven history? For those of you who are unaware, he worked on the Call of Duty 4 soundtrack, Modern Warfare. A lot of Respawn does come from Infinity Ward, the developers of that game, as well as some of the other Call of Duties. And then he also did the first and second Titanfall soundtracks as well. Answered by Eric Kraber, our senior audio director. Stephen Barton is an amazing composer, and we are fortunate to keep working with him on our Titanfall games. Actually, one of the best things about Stephen is his willingness to continue to iterate on ideas until we get it just right. He is always eager and willing to take things in new directions and enjoys the challenge. Having worked with him for a while now, communicating ideas and getting to the right piece of composition gets easier all the time. Thanks so much once again for the response, especially from the man Kraber himself, of course the sniper Kraber named after him. Will you ever add customizable AI voices for our Titans like Titanfall 1? It's something we'd love to do, but the ongoing voice actor strike makes it much more difficulty. Frothy Omen then responded saying, I'll do it for free. Also, I've told you your hair looks very nice today. And somebody else responded to Frothy saying, I'd be totally behind this. A community Titan voice pack. Could add in the likes of Gyaradude and Tony Mo too. That would be absolutely incredible, having my voice in the game somehow. Having Tony, he has a fantastic voice as well. Having Frothy, absolute beast of a YouTuber, it'd be crazy. And of course get the other well-known creators as well. Multiplayer level designers. When you start designing multiplayer levels, what aspects do you focus on first? Do you start with the Titan lane/areas, pilot areas, or objectives, or a mixture? From designer Alex from our multiplayer team, generally focus on Titan lanes first because they are the biggest characters to consider. From there, I focus on pilots and their routes. We like to create front lines, interesting spaces where pilots and Titans converge and interact in fun ways, usually following the theme of whatever environment that we're building. For Titanfall 2, we designed the maps with multiple game modes in mind, and we've learned from that. For future development, we're exploring creating maps designed with specific game modes in mind. I'm really curious about the recent surge in player count, being that it jumped to nearly 10,000 in a weekend after being around 2,000 to 3,000 for months. Just wondering if it's a bug or if you have any insight onto why this happened. On PC to clarify, a cracked version of Titanfall 2 found its way onto the internet, and those users are communicating with our master servers. We hope those players are enjoying the free time on the frontier and will choose to buy the game to play multiplayer. Well, that's an incredible response. I mean, taking the high road to a certain extent, not necessarily criticizing them, just saying they're glad people can enjoy the game. And I mean, yeah, hopefully they do purchase the game. I'm sure we will see a rise of PC player count fairly soon, as the game is about to be added to Origin Access on PC, so hopefully that'll be a legitimate boost instead of this unfortunate situation with piracy. Hey, I'm curious, does anyone at Respawn regret creating the Smart Pistol? If you knew then what you know now, would you still have included it in the franchise? I have no problems with it personally, but it certainly gets a lot of flack from the community. It definitely has caused its share of controversy, but I love that we actively tried to solve problems in the accessibility of FPS games. The amount of fans who have told us, I never liked FPS games until Titanfall, is immensely gratifying. And the Smart Pistol is one of the things that has done that. Plus, when a group of people have something to rally against, it helps build communities. Why did you have the idea to add Titans into the original Titanfall? And if that was a core element, why did you add in parkour? Also, if that was a key element as well, what unexpected ideas did you add into the game that you didn't think of when first creating it? The very first Titanfall was actually meant to be more of a dive suit, maybe 8 feet high. Joel Emsley did his famous kit bashing to create it in the real world, and during a discussion he put a little World War II action figure next to it to show the potential size difference that you now know of, Pilot v Titan. From there we modeled the robot and did some mocap, and the combination of a giant robot that was nimble and moved more like a person was definitely a strange attractor that we had to explore further. Designers, on the other hand, are where double jump and wall run came from, just trying whatever crazy stuff seemed fun and failing quickly to find the fun. The real answer to all of this, there isn't a grand vision of a completed game that gets transcribed onto a blueprint for us to work on. It is a very iterative process that often leads to very different endpoints than what we expected. Titanfall is a result of a talented team coming together and making something awesome via sheer power of will. I can't stop wondering what exactly went down when you were dragged out of Activision by goons. Will the specifics ever be told? So first off, before we get to the answer, so I did mention this earlier, but once again, a lot of Respawn. It does consist of old Infinity Ward developers, creators of the Call of Duty series, including the first and second title, as well as Call of Duty 4, Modern Warfare, and Modern Warfare 2. Shortly after the release of Modern Warfare 2, there was a very public lawsuit that took place as the heads of the company, including current CEO Vince Pella, were fired abruptly, and they did not receive a lot of royalties for their work. Around this time last year, I actually did a full history of Respawn. Maybe should update it sometime soon, as it has been a year since then, but if you want to hear more about that, you can always check out that video on our channel. But the answer is, it was a pretty intense few months. It was pretty nuts having just shipped literally the biggest entertainment thing ever, 500 million in first 5 days, and then having to make a choice like that. You should read the final hours of Titanfall if you want more info. P.S. Never get involved in a $1 billion lawsuit. It's not good for your health. How do you guys feel about the content leaks that have been happening every DLC drop? They're a bit annoying, but unsurprising. I do hope that people understand that not everything that makes it into the script files and string files will eventually ship. We do a lot of prototyping and iteration, so a lot of stuff ends up on the cutting room floor. And then in response to that, somebody else asked, Pilot Sword, yay or nay? The response, nay. So no Pilot Sword coming. I really love the way you guys have handled DLC and microtransactions. Nowadays, it's hard to find games that don't want to squeeze every cent out of you with RNG and overpriced DLC. Is the free DLC with cosmetic microtransactions something we can look forward to in future games, or has this model not made enough money to continue doing this in the future? Not going to lie, I don't think it's made the maximum revenue possible from DLC. That said, we care a lot about our players and treating them fairly. Future title plans have not yet been set in stone, but I think over the last 2 games we've shown our internal philosophy on post-launch support. And then the final question that I'm covering here in this video, my question is, how long was Titanfall 2 in development? And was there any concepts that never made it into the main game? Titanfall 2 was in development for around 25 months. One of the hardest parts of development is having to cut stuff. Titanfall 2, like many other games, has plenty of concepts that ended up on the cutting room floor. It's a reality we all face to get the game shipped on time. I just wanted to bring this up specifically for the development time of Titanfall 2 being just a little over 2 years. This kind of makes me believe that Titanfall 3 perhaps is in development. I mean, I know people often still roll their eyes whenever I do bring up the next title, but I mean, they've got to be working on it at this point, I would assume, as I do personally believe, at least looking at the past and looking at this time here, that probably 2019, if there is going to be Titanfall 3, would be a realistic day. But this is just completely me, not based on anything else. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. Once again, thank you so much to Respawn for answering all these questions over on Reddit. If you would like to read through more answers and questions, this was a very lengthy video, of course, but there still are some other great questions that were asked. I could not include everything in this video here. Well, once again, you can go check out the description to check that out. But until next time, stand by for Titanfall.